Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see everyone. Thank you for coming out. I would like to call this meeting to order. Ring of the bell. And if you would all please stand, do a little pledge of allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you'd like to please remain standing. We're going to have a invocation. And I'll do it.
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on.
Justin, you can.
It's by Justin, but yeah.
Do you want to come up front, Justin? Okay.
Sneaky.
I was trying to. Thank you.
All right, please bow your head, all you sinners. Dear Lord, thank you for this meal we're about to receive. Thank you for the opportunity to help and do your will in helping those in our community that are less fortunate and need your care. We just pray for those members and family that can't be with us today. But, those that need your healing will receive it. And bless us. Amen.
Amen. Now we have a song. David J.
Yeah.
Would you like to lead us in song?
I was told I would be helping you lead it.
All right, we'll go.
That's what they get you.
That's true. Yeah. I'll start.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true to the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Hoorah!
All right, that was great, David. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome our guests today. We have Dan McAllister and Myrna from the County of San Diego. And we do have one other guest here today from the Monarch School. Carter, I believe she had to step out and take the call. So now I'd like to ask Brian to come up and introduce our speaker today. We'll get Brian to it. All right.
I forgot how this worked.
Thank you, Mike. Actually, I would like to thank you.
Wow, this is a long bio.
He's been around.
Okay, I'm cutting short. Okay. Good afternoon, fellow Hawaiians.
Brian.
It is my pleasure to introduce Dan McAllister. I get to do this actually as one of the MCs of the Terrasana Parade, when we used to do parades back in 2019 and before. So it's fun to do it again here. Dan has served as the San Diego County residents, or served San Diego County residents as the county's treasurer tax collector since 2002. He oversees the collection of over $7 billion in property taxes, half paid by J. Jeffcoat himself, the management of $12.3 billion in the county's investment pool, and the administration of the county's $1.5 billion defined contribution program. He contributes considerable time and resources to the community, as all of you. He serves as chair of the San Diego Unified School District Special Audit and Finance Committee. Hopefully this isn't too outdated. And is participating member of the board of directors for the Youth Province and YMCA, Habitat for Humanity, and New Americans Museum. His strong commitment and involvement to the community dates back to his service as a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer in the Western Pacific country of Micronesia. A second-generation San Diegan, he holds a bachelor's degree from CSU Fresno, a master's in business from the United States International University, and also completed executive education programs in portfolio concepts and management at Stanford and the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Both, I believe, are accredited institutions the last time I checked. He also, as we were chatting about, and I recall from 2014, my wife and I were at a charity event, and he is an expert dancer. He was one of the, this is a true story, one of the Dancing with the Stars contestants at that event for charity as well. So he will be performing after he gives us an update of what we do with our tax dollars. Everybody, please help me welcome Dan McAllister.
And some things aren't always as we see them. And I think that the dancing experience was a great one. My staff before begged me not to do it. We went to the first meeting and there were several other elected officials in this meeting at a dance studio up on 4th, I think, near Balboa Park. And it was very official. They hired a lot of instructors. And the goal was to pair us up with a professional dancer so that we could minimize damage and come out looking like we knew what we were doing. And when they assigned the tango to me, I thought it was like a foreign language. It was pretty awkward. A lot of nuances, a lot of good things there. But the trophy that was being talked about basically acknowledged at the bottom of the trophy, most difficult. Now, my version was that it was the most difficult dance and I should get a lot of praise and a lot of thought and good things. My staff said, see, somebody else thinks the way we do it, most difficult. Most difficult. So that was the deal. And it's history. We only did it one time, but it was good and a lot of fun. And the money went to charity afterwards, which is always good. I want to thank the Kiwanis Club for having me here today. You know, it's interesting how time flies when you're having a good time. Time flies even sometimes when you're not, but we roll through the times together. And I was a member of this club when it met downtown on a regular basis, actually in Mission Valley, before it moved downtown at the Masonic Temple down there. And there were some great experiences there, a lot of members and a lot of good work in the community, and I'll always remember that. I'm also an ex-key clubber from Mission Bay High. I think that's what at least gave me some ability to stand in front of an audience and talk. Whether it's coherent or not is for you all to decide. But nevertheless, I owe Kiwanis a lot. You guys do a great job for the community, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Our mission today is really to talk a little bit about a subject a lot of people don't care to talk about, taxes. But nevertheless, it's a necessary thing to talk about, especially this time of the year. We've renamed the times of the year the 2 seasons of giving to just kind of give it a little less trust, and that seems to work well at appeasing people, knowing that that money is going to go to good use that we collect. We don't make any decisions as to how it gets spent. Our mission really is to just bill it, collect it, and invest it while it's waiting to be used by whomever is supposed to claim it. And that seems to work also. What we've done here is we've put together a remote control.
Yeah.
Right? And
Or I can put.
well, we agreed earlier. That's a good idea.
It was on.
I know, it's on now.
But I can click now.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, yeah.
I click.
All right. So you want to try? That's it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about taxes, and then we can open it up to questions. But our tax collections are up. It's surprising us not a lot because we think that based on what the assessor has told us, next year and the year after are the years to watch because of all the rising prices of housing, and that as people buy them and the ownership transfers, it results in more tax money coming in, inevitable. So if you look at what we do, basically, I said primarily surrounding tax collection, but we also manage the investment pool of the County of San Diego, $13.2 billion this year at its peak. This is what you may remember was not distinguished as a good venture in Orange County in 1994 when they filed for bankruptcy. It was the largest bankruptcy in the history of municipal finance. And we learned a lot from that. I think all over the state, people now have to have annual plans that are approved by the boards of supervisors in their jurisdictions. So all 58 counties have to have a master plan for how that money is going to be used and how it's going to be, more importantly, invested. Serving about 200 different public agencies We have water districts, fire districts, school districts, with 42 public school districts in San Diego County that benefit from these tax dollars. 5 community college districts, and untold numbers of other small municipal kinds of organizations that do service work in the community. And I think that really a lot of the public service and entities that we see, for instance, water districts. There are a lot of water districts, and some of you probably get double billing on your water district, like many people do, depending on where you live and what goes on there. But 200 agencies is a lot to manage money for, and we're the bankers for that. So when the monies come in from bond issuance, they come in from fundraisings of some sort, we look out for that money and make sure that the money is safe kept until somebody needs that money. And we don't like the tone or tenor of 1994 ever again to shake the halls of county government in San Diego, as well as up and down the state. There are other things too that are interesting things that we do, just I think because the math was there. Originally, people said if you're going to have a 401k like system, then you need somebody to match it up with know-how in that arena. And so we manage that for the county of San Diego and our employees. This year, I think, has actually soared because the market was so good this past year. It's past $2 billion now, and it's really done well. But there isn't a fund that hasn't, I think, in the last year or so. So we have to be aware that we can't knock it out of the park. Last year was a 25% year for us, and that was as the pension crow flies. We're not expecting, because we do what's called smoothing, meaning we smooth out the highs and the lows over 5-year blocks of time. And so we would rather sort of divide 25% by 5 and plan on needing to work hard to get those numbers up in the next few years. The other thing we do, and we started doing this some time ago, because I thought once I was elected, it was our duty really to provide instruction to the finance people of the 200 agencies. They can all use CE credits. If they're attorneys, they have special credits that are available. Right, Jay? Yes, sir. Yeah, see, you guys. And more common is the need for tutelage and mentorship to help some of these people who don't have the resources to understand that these are good, helpful kinds of programs that we put on. But our most popular one out of the 4 that we do every year is fraud prevention and ethics. That seems to attract, I don't know, people are brought together by bad stories and stories of malfeasance, but the FBI and the federal government can tell great stories about some of the cases that they've had to endure and research. And it's always instructional and it's helpful. The other things we do are cash handling seminar, which is sort of a tried and true methodology of telling the same story every time we talk about handling cash. And if you're a school clerk who handles ASB monies, if you're a school clerk and you handle lunch monies, if you're a school clerk or even a volunteer and you handle Friday night football monies or basketball monies, somebody has to account for it, and it has to be done systematically. And there's room, sadly, at least in the past, of people that didn't really quite understand their responsibilities and either pocketed the money or didn't bank it right. So those are things we do, and I think they're most helpful. Moving on to our next one. Oh, what happened? There we go. Our bill, this has changed a lot in the last 19 years or so. When we first got to the office, we realized that the bill was defunct in DOA. It had been in place for about 50 years. The format was old. The colors were monochromatic, and people hated the color. In fact, the first 6 months I was on the job, That was the number one thing people objected to, was the ugly tax bill. And what we decided to do, because actually I got the idea and I thought to myself, now who else has to go through cycles of usefulness and then move on to the next cycle? And it's rock stars. And at that time, the Rolling Stones was coming through town for another Rolling Stones concert, a farewell concert. They call all of them a farewell concert. So everybody ends up going. That's right. That's right. And I thought, well, if we could maybe take this concept out to the people and say, here's what the old tax bill looks like, and here's what we could have it look like if you gave us good input on what to do and what to change. First thing was that there were about 18 different help lines on the top of the bill, phone lines. So if you lived in Vista or North County, you had to pay a toll fee to find out about your taxes. That didn't make any sense. There was no toll-free number on the bill, and all of these extraneous numbers were just there, and it caused anguish and bad feelings. So we decided that maybe it would be wise to do sort of copy the Stones and take the old tax bill on a farewell tour around San Diego and hear what the people had to say about it and how we could improve it. So we spent a lot of time, but before we really went into the provinces to ask people, the day that this idea came about, I was leaving the Union Tribune offices, and there was a group of kids from my old elementary school, Kate Sessions Elementary School, and they were being led by counselors or others on a tour of the press. We started to talk, and I said, well, if you ever want a speaker or anything, we'd love to come up and come back to the alma mater and talk Kate Sessions. And so I got a call saying that they'd like me to come and speak, but what are you going to speak that the kids will understand? You know, that was the big question. And we said, well, we can do some simple math problems, and that'll kind of suffice for what we're trying to do. But our mission really was to come up with a nicer, happier, friendlier, kinder, gentler tax bill. And that was the pitch. So I got up there in front of the fifth grade class, and I told them that this was the mission. And a little hand went up in the front row, and the little girl yelled out, "Puppies is your answer." And I said, well, how can puppies and tax bills work together? I mean, do they work together? She said, they're simple. Everything you just said, they're kind, they're happy, they're soft, they're nice. And if you put the image of puppies on the tax bills, people would smile when they got the tax bill and not be angry when they got the tax bill. Well, we didn't use the puppy idea, but another little boy had a greater idea and said, you know, we live in an area where there's blue sky most of the year. There's blue sky in the ocean, in the bay, and everywhere else. And around, have you ever thought of using kind of a soothing, nice blue for the tax bill? We hadn't thought of that. And so that really became the anchor of what we did here in creating a nicer, friendlier, kinder, gentler tax bill. We don't give the fifth grader enough credit, but it was a great idea. And we got rid of the ugly rusty red color that everybody complained about. And we've tweaked it over the years, made it more, I don't know, maybe this is a little bit more like Monopoly or Candyland, you know, you get different images, but it's all working. And with our tax bill collections hitting all-time record highs, over 99%, except for last year where we had a little minor setback called COVID. But we still came in at 98.6% on collections last year, in spite of the COVID issue. So to us, that's good. I think the number was 6 years in a row, we had 99%. So that's a good thing we're really proud of. This year, maybe I should use the assistant. Oh, there we go. Getting a tour. Back. We are, but sure. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about how many bills we sent out this past year. We're over 1 million now for the last couple of years in San Diego County, which means there is more development going on. There is more taxable partial opportunities for taxes than there was just a year ago. But 1,004,808 tax bills were sent out and arrived just, I guess, within the last couple of weeks. So that's positive. But the best way to pay, and by the way, we expect to collect this year 7.3%, 3 billion, sorry, $7.3 billion in property taxes in San Diego County. But the best way to pay is something called e-check. It's a free situation. There's no charge for it at all. 68% of all of our taxes now come to us electronically. So people have picked up on the notion that this is a good way to pay. It's free. There's no charge for it. And people can bet that they get a receipt that documents the time and the date and the amount that was paid. So that has helped a lot. And actually, I think we talked about this before at the office, that one of the positives out of the COVID deal with the office closing was that it drove more people to pay online. We just hope that they'll continue to pay that way and even grow that number in the next few years. So remember, the best way to pay is e-check. And to do that, it's sdttc.com, sdttc.com. And you'll get that immediate response in terms of a receipt for the money you send in. Our tax allocation that we look at every year in a pie chart on the bill insert that goes with the bill is critical to the operation of the county and the schools, cities, and other agencies. But taxes also fund essential public services, including COVID-19 and all that's gone on in that realm over the last 2 years or so. But they do fund essential public services, and it's something that we should all keep in mind. Police, fire, emergency personnel, as well as all the other things that are happening in public health, need a source for funding, and these monies help to do that. There's another thing that's kind of intriguing here, and people say, well, why do you still collect money for redevelopment agencies when Governor Brown, I think then Governor Brown, second time, right, said that we're going to get rid of redevelopment agencies around the state. And they promptly did that. But what they left was a lot of debt because a lot of the financing that had gone into some of the long-term projects was still like a 20 more years due or 30 years more due type of situation. So given the numbers, 12% set aside is pretty realistic for what it will cost to pay down those bills over the next 20 to 30 years. I think the other things that probably would be good to talk about are our regional economy. The employment outlook in August of 2021, San Diego's unemployment rate of 6.6% was below the state's rate of 7.5%, but above the national rate. And I think that's still the play this week that I've heard on some of the reports out there. That it just sort of goes up and down like a roller coaster, but it's kind of bunched up there for state, national, and local. And the outlook is optimistic, but we're still in a period where it's hard to find labor force workers. It's hard to find people to do the jobs that are out there. And it's tough on employers to find people, the right people, to do the kind of work that they need done. I've talked to a number of small businesses, particularly restaurants, who have had a very, very hard time. We're speaking with one owner recently who had to cancel 250 meals on a weekend, which was the height of the week for them. Had to cancel some wedding arrangements that they had because they didn't have the staff to staff those events. And the simple events like washing dishes, getting things prepared, or serving the table, or taking the orders. They just didn't have the number of people that they needed to function. And I think that's still, in large part, the situation. Yes, sir?
Do you have any rationale why there was a shortage of lower wage positions? Why they can't find the employees?
There are a lot of theories out there. I mean, some suggest that because of unemployment insurance, because of monies coming from the government, it offset the need in the minds of some of those workers that they didn't need the job anymore. So that's one explanation that I've heard. Whether that's accurate or not, I don't know.
Is this a passing trend?
Well, we hope so. I mean, an awful lot of people, if you visit any restaurant these days, my experience has been in the last couple of weeks even, to see that the help numbers are down. So you have fewer people covering more territory in a restaurant than ever before, and it's subject to mistakes or tripping or problems because they're hustling and trying to do things. So I don't think that people are less interested when you think about big blocks of people coming to San Diego and look at the convention center, for instance. The convention center is back online. We are out of the business, at least for the time being, of housing the homeless or some of the immigrant issues that were out there. So possibly that will help by bringing more billing to San Diego and thus more need for people to be hired to staff those events. Yeah, hope that helps. But I think one of the things too that we focus on every year when we meet with the agencies, the rating agencies, is the diversification of San Diego's economy. It's no longer a one-trick pony, but it's a diversified economy, and not all is down at the same time. Some of the higher paying jobs, some of the research jobs, some of the medical jobs, some of those kinds of things are doing fine. So it's only when those people go out to dinner that they realize that there's a discrepancy in this. But we think that things will turn around, gradually turn around. Nothing is stationary in these economic times, I think. And we hope, I think as all of you do, that we can kind of shed the burden of these terrible diseases and things out there, like COVID, and make for the exits and have a good time and do things together. But there is an uneven recovery going on, and in some sectors it shows positive and many it doesn't. I think that it would be wise to see if we have some questions that we can address or answer. And
Well, I just, I wasn't gonna ask if you called them. You remember, my significant other, Joyce Gaddis, was in that same dance contest that you were.
Right.
She won.
It's a burden I have to live with. We had a good time.
I was curious your perspective on the kind of the bond market, fixed income sector, low interest rate environment we've been in. We hear about inflation obviously happening, but it hasn't translated necessarily to an increase in the interest rate environment. More on the investor side.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of an awkward moment for us a little bit. We actually hope the interest rates go up because the yields go up on the monies that we invest. And because we're fixed income investors, we want that yield to go up because it's our responsibility to generate as much revenue for the 200 agencies as we can. But on the consumer side of things, people want low interest rates. People don't want to pay extra if they don't have to. And so I think you have this economy that's been stretching and stretching without a lot of direction, it sounds like, because one week it's this and the next week it's that. And I know that there are still good loans out there. I was down in Mission Valley earlier and stopped into one of the credit unions, and I know the manager, we just chatted briefly, and just said that they've raised their rates a little bit, but they're still within the realm of accessible, good rates. And if you look at under 30 years and you look at under 3%, it fits into that category, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know, the auto rates and loans are way down, I think 1.5%, 1.7%. So from a consumer standpoint, it's good. And if you're wanting to refinance your home loan, it's a good time to do that, still.
But we don't ask on the flip side, it's difficult to find yield.
It is.
So you're managing a giant portfolio that's looking for yield and something that's probably sub inflation. So how do you manage a portfolio that's not even keeping up with inflation? We're already going for yield.
It's a difficult time, there's no question about it.
Dancing under the stars.
But our mission is to not lose money. So even if we have to settle for just a few basis points in the positive, we're doing that. But it's really just hanging on because there's no movement up in a big way that would help appease us and make the investors feel better. But state law prohibits us from investing in equities. We can't invest in REITs. We can't invest in most things. So we really, in order to maintain our AAA ratings, we have to go by the book and say, what is it going to take to get there? And it's a very conservative, thoughtful, kind of snowy white, plain vanilla portfolio. But this is what the state has mandated in the wake of Orange County. So it's all there. And then, like I said, when the interest rates were 4 or 5% and really a good deal still then, things were chugging along and everybody seemed happier. But we'll watch and see.
Well, a couple things. One, you brought up Orange County a couple times. Did they actually default on any of their obligations?
Can't answer that. I don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, I know some San Diego lawyers who got involved. Jay knows them, but they didn't work together.
So at the risk of putting everybody to expand on this question about bonds, what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on what about extending the duration of
We're limited. We're limited. We
Yeah,
can't
no,
invest.
I mean, what about, so separate from how you invest, what are your thoughts on state or county, city extending the duration of their loans? Yeah, their issue, especially when it's backed by a bridge that's going to last 50 years or something like that. What are your, don't you think that would maybe increase the curve a bit?
Maybe, but the whole notion that we could change all 58 counties and coming out of Sacramento to change what has worked in the eyes of many,
Right.
doesn't seem like it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we're happy that there's a governor on this, not a governor, but a governor on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That can keep kind of things in pack, not in traction.
I didn't realize, so you guys can, you manage the muni bond market. Does that include our airport?
No.
Okay.
Well, we do have money from the airport. We have money from Sandag. We have money from MTS, Big Red Bus.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
They have all issued, and they have voracious appetites for issuing debt in the last few years. That whole project at the airport is all done by bond finance.
Right.
And so that's the airport authority that does that. They bank with us to some degree, so we get some of those monies to manage for them. And the same is true with Sandag and true with MTS. But
So they give you, because they borrow, but can you invest in airport or lower credit bonds? Like just to
when we issue the bond,
Yeah.
it generates cash.
Yeah.
It can come over to be invested however our system works.
Yeah.
And that's what we, that's what we, I think the bonds are bought by a lot of investors
Yeah.
here and there and everywhere. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any of the debt accounting services that would fluctuate in rate, variable rate, or is it all fixed?
Well, I think that, first of all, we got rid of a lot of variable rate investments a few years ago, probably more like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, because we saw the ups and downs that it causes, and it really makes it more difficult to plan for financial needs when you can't count on and can't depend on the monies to be there when you need it.
I was just talking about the debt service.
I'm not sure I understand.
So, for instance, you're paying off debt for different agencies, right? Like the development. Is that all? So let's say it may be great fire. Right? Is any of the debt or services subject to higher payments like, the U.S. government? I think it's not raising it, trying to control. Keep interest rates raising, raise the cost of savings in the national debt. So is the county in that same situation?
Well, the county has its own debt portfolio, there's no question about that, and some of the pension obligation bonds that were paying back, I want to say 2000 and 2004. We're still paying those down, but the mission is to get them paid off so that we don't have that out there lurking as a debt for the future. And that, I think they'll be paid off by 2035.
Are they subject to fluctuating interest rates or are they?
No,
No,
they're locked in there.
There's some inflation.
Government, that's flexible.
You guys invested inflation index treasury?
I don't think so.
You had mentioned that last year collection rate dropped below 99% the first time.
Yeah.
What's the profile of that uncollected set of property tax bills? Is it largely individual or is it commercial or?
I think it's largely individual, and there are a variety of reasons as to why they don't pay or why they prefer to pay a late fee. Most people don't like late fees, so most people pay their taxes on time. And even, I think that we received a lot of input from people around the state who said that 98.6% is a darn good rate, no matter who you are or where you are. But I think as a matter of pride, we like the 99% figure better, and it's something that our team has to shoot for each year.
Yeah. So, Dan, are you in an election year or are you winning?
Next year.
So, I'm going to ask you a question. So tell us your thoughts about property.
Well, actually, Prop 13 has done a lot. It stabilized a lot of things because it was a sameness that could carry on for many years to come. But there were some other interventions. For instance, Prop 19 last year kind of took a dig at Prop 13, and particularly from a parent-to-child exclusion on the death of the parent, by saying, instead of just giving you that cost basis, you're now going to have the property reassessed. So the kids, in effect, will get it reassessed and have much higher taxes to pay.
Unless they live it, right? Yeah, they're right.
I think it was $1 million,
Tell them, right?
So,
But I mean, because you always hear people talk about California because of the lost revenue for property affected services and education.
well, I think if you look at it that way, then you can say that there was a large loss of revenue, but what is, what is, sorry. And it's just one of those things that every new buyer pays a little more than the buyer before. And so they're paying into a system that does see increases.
I'm from originally from Wisconsin. I think they reassess your property every year. Whether you're changing ownership or whatever. So they have worse property tax.
Well, I understand that the people from Prop 13, that Jarvis people, have gotten engaged in trying to change the new law, the Prop 19, either change it or do away with it and something in its place. So that's taken place in the last couple of weeks, I think, discussion. But whether they qualify for the ballot, Who knows?
No one's gonna do anything over their property.
You're right.
I'm not voting for it.
Yes, sir.
And what bank are we using, union for, tax? This bank do a better
Well, first place, any bank we use is volume, of course, and they take that into consideration, but most of the big banks have staff in all municipalities that deal with their accounts, and they're sort of segregated away from other things. So we have the money's coming in from the taxes. We have money's coming in from other kinds of things, business improvement districts, any number of things that are out there that need to be sort of pigeonholed and kept in safe ways.
Which bank are we using?
We're using JP Morgan Chase.
And my cousin is a judge back in New York.
Yeah.
Same name. We were just talking on the phone, and all of part of New York's pension goes to Goldman Sachs as an investment for their pension. We do that. That's where better place to park the money.
Well, it's limited because the money in the investment pool is kept separate from the money in the pension fund. So there are two different entities for investment. A pension fund can invest in equities, it can invest in anything. But it's a question of how much leverage and how much risk you want to take. And we learned a lesson a few years ago when a group from Texas came and seemed to commandeer our money and the whole investment process.
At the Sacramento level?
I'm sorry?
Was it at Sacramento?
No, this was an investment firm from Texas, and they came into San Diego and had lots of promises and things like that. And it didn't work out, and finally we righted the ship and changed investment advice. I think there was a time when the pension system went rogue a little bit by having outside counsel, outside leadership, outside CIO functions, the investment officer position, and the team. Now we have a team of about 3 people in the investment area, and it was at one time about 20 or 25. Our results are much better now with fewer people running things, and it's all run out of the office here. It's not run in Texas or anywhere else. That's a good thing.
What is troubling to me is here, state employees, all ministers of power that works out. There was a list that I was looking at. There isn't enough to pay it down.
Well, I think I know there are multiple systems, pension systems in the state of California. So we may have the San Jose bus drivers have their own pension fund. They're not part of CalPERS, they're not part of CalSTRS, they're different. CalSTRS and CalPERS are state retirement programs. There are 37 counties this was established back in 1937. And we're one of those counties where we're allowed to have our own pension system as part of the 20 people or 20 entities who do. But there are others out there. I think there are 42 public agency pension systems in California that are all separate from each other. It's a lot.
So who does the auditing for us?
We do every year. In fact, we were at a meeting this morning which adopted the audit of the last year. And we have an outside auditor. We do all the things that we're supposed to do in terms of doing right things, good things, to make sure it's all in place and all programmed to do what it's set out to do. But we're proud of that, and we received a good, clean audit this year again, which is good. I see another hand here.
Yeah. Excuse me. What do you think the impact will be of the legislation? I can't remember the number of names that essentially allows you to kind of change the zoning in your house, and put multiple units on a, single family property now. Do you have any sense of, in any way, shape or form, what the impact of that might be? Seen any?
On some of these issues, I heard the coach for one of the NFL teams over the weekend, who's received some notoriety for criticizing calls and other things. And they ran up to him with a microphone, highly controversial call in the game, which threw the game against him, so he wasn't too happy. But they asked him the question, he said, "I don't have any opinion on that." And he walked off the stage. But at least he fulfilled his promise not to get involved in the issue there. I mean, it's, as a homeowner and a property owner, I almost hate to see a single family lot become 4 single family lots or 2, because it'll bring more crowding, more traffic, more confusion. And I'm not sure we're ready for all of that. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the city will seek to implement in a big way. I think it already is, because if you just drive around PV, North PV, we know that area, right? Went to high school. But yes, sir.
Dan,
Yeah.
this is interesting. You're showing all the revenue coming in. Has your office ever done a projection based on the growth of real estate values and the number of homes and businesses that are projected to be added to the tax rolls, of what the future income would be to your office?
Well,
If I'm a city manager or county manager, that would be interesting to add those numbers.
and you would think that the leadership in all 18 cities in the county of San Diego would want that information. But this is really the place of the assessor's office to make these kinds of projections based on what they see as valuations up or down or hanging in there. And so I hate to defer to him with that, but I think that's
the
where it
assessor.
is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, he's a good speaker, by the way. And
I don't know your thoughts on the forbearance that happened, I think it was now expired. Is you projecting to see foreclosures? How's that all play out?
well, again, in this county,
Taxes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't think the taxes stop.
No, and again, the assessor's office has done projections on that, because as you might imagine too, the school districts, for instance, need to have data on whether people are moving in or moving out or staying the same to plan for their school years. That's one big example. And now you have with public health issues popping up a lot, a new entrant into the whole milieu of where does the money go, where does it come from, and how do we get it to mitigate some of those problems. Big issue. Yes, ma'am.
What you referring to earlier about like subdivided lots, all residents.
I'm sorry. I couldn't-
What you were referring to earlier about one lot and making it that was single family home and they do 3. Isn't that another way to get really expand your revenue options without necessarily there be any other new inventory, other land taken for home housing? Because if you could put 2 homes that are worth equal or more than the original home, you go to get more tax revenue for that footprint.
We would get more tax benefit, but I ask you, is there a problem now with increasing values or more billable property out there? And the answer is no. Record numbers of people are paying a lot more now than they paid 5 years ago. And it'll continue, at least that's what the prognosticators tell us, the economists say.
Where do the people go who can't pay those taxes? Where do they go?
It's a golden question. I can't tell you. If it were an easy answer, I think we would all be celebrating. But it isn't. And there's so many variables. So many variables. Yes.
Dan, what should I do with my bill if my mortgage company impounds my property tax?
Well, I would call and just check to make sure it's received.
Okay.
That's always a good thing because you never know whether the bank, we had an incident occur probably 10 years ago where one of the big banks that had a lot of mortgages out there and thus agreed to pay the taxes, either forgot or were late. So the decision was, you can send a nice letter to all these people that didn't pay their taxes on time because you were late, or I can send a letter. And they opted to send their own letter, and they paid the late fees. I was amazed, but it was a lot of owners.
I'll give you a different. You can write a nice letter to the mortgage servicing company and ask them to cancel your escrow. And they'll do it. And then you pay Dan's office directly.
Yeah, I mean, from a personal finance perspective, I've always done that, and now it's dawning on me, it's like,
You just have to write a letter. They'll do it.
okay. So do the reverse. What is the percentage of people that get impounds versus pay themselves, you know?
I think impounds are at about 34%, 32%, somewhere in there now, and growing. But I think it used to be, I don't know when they stopped doing this, but there used to be a quarter point benefit if you agree to have impounds. Because that way they were assured that you would pay your taxes built into your loan. So there may be some creative ways to deal with that. But he's right. If you want to be sure, call and just check in.
Okay, very good.
Yes, sir.
How many properties are in state here after having reached 4 years?
I don't know statewide, and it,
No, I mean, just out of the county here.
yeah,
My understanding is that after 4 years of not paying tax, probably it goes to the state where they give you a chance to redeem it and or not.
well, we give everybody the benefit of the doubt in terms of those 5 years, and we call on them, we send them notices, we try to work with them, and we try to do our level best at getting them reunited with their property. But there are always people, it seems, in that 1%, the new version of the 1%ers. Remember a few years ago, that was those people were on top of everything. I mean, this is a different group of 1%ers, and they just don't respond to a lot, but they do respond to those late fees because if it's 10% out of the gate, and then within 6 months per month, it's 1.5%. So we're looking at another 18% on top of 10%. It really starts to equal gouging credit card companies, in terms of high interest payments that are necessary. So the lesson is to pay on time. But we've had cycles, as you might imagine, after the sort of 7, 8, 9 time period when the recession, greatest recession, it was interesting because we had really nice homes for sale. We had a lot of things out by the beach. But you have to ask yourself when you see these people come in, perfectly healthy people, and there was one property that stood out in my mind on Windansea Beach, and it was like a 2 or 3 bedroom condo, and the guy just didn't pay for 5 years, and at the end of the day, at about 4:30, the day before the sale was to take place, this guy comes in, wine shirt, shorts, flip flops, hat,
Big sack of money.
pays it, and then that's it. And you just wanted to ask him, what were you thinking? I mean, you almost lost this property, which had a big value, by your inaction. He didn't say anything. He just took the money. That's our job. That's our job.
I'm not getting vaccinated or paying my taxes.
Fair. Anyway, any other questions? I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Great to have you back.
When are you gonna join the club?
I don't want to pay the late fee.
Probably a pretty good segue to our next piece. As most of you know, we lost Charlie Coleman a few weeks back. We will have a celebration of life. The details are to come. We're waiting for his widow to be off of Karina and put something nice together for Charlie. Probably a Division I.
Yeah.
Mr. Brian Kraus. November 30th. You better be prepared. I guess we're not going to be able to hit you up until December 7th, but if you want to make an announcement now, that's great. But otherwise, we would like to wish you a happy birthday in advance.
Thank you. Yeah. So, let's see.
You need the talking stick for this?
Yeah, no, don't be please. I know, I need to cut it. So let's see, 3 plus 15 plus. So we'll round it up to 60. And then I'll use this opportunity as well to find myself, and if I can, find David as well. But we, as many of you know, our foundation contributes to SDSU for athletic scholarships, and does anybody else have season tickets to SDSU?
You go. As a non-alum, you can
Not
talk to
anymore. I
Ryan.
think it's too late. There's okay. So, but Jay and I do, and then we also make personal donations towards the SDSU, and in return, they offer a few hospitality passes for the game, which some of you've been to and will be, at this year. So I would like to donate an additional $250 to the foundation. With for those.
That's wonderful.
And I will do the same. And there was the bill aspect of this. When this all sort of started, because we were the only two that had season tickets, Bill Gibbs decided to turn it into an auction. Even though he didn't want them or need them or use them. And so he got the price up. So all of a sudden
We had to outbid it.
we had to outbid Bill Gibbs for these 10 years ago.
Tremendous.
So anyway, so I will certainly throw in my 250. One quick story is that, remember, Don McKee was the reason on the baseball side, and now the overall sports program, the amount of scholarship money that we give is that the foundation would not agree to do anything other than the junior college football scholarship. And he wanted to do something when he win and become the new manager of San Diego baseball. And so he fixes, by golly, he died and left millions to our foundation. And that's how we're able to give all of the money that we now give to all of Aztec. That's right.
Tremendous. Thank you, guys. So for any game that you're unable to attend, you'll bring an offer to auction those tickets?
Yes, I will.
Or you
Yeah,
can
okay,
go
good.
with Kraus and get the true Kraus experience.
And this is for to Jane and to the Kraus family, or is it 2 tickets, or how does that work?
Well, Jay has to.
Didn't you have 2 tickets or another?
I have 4.
Okay.
But it's the hospitality passes 4.
Cool.
Yeah. Great. So 2 of my folks have.
Probably more valuable, right?
That's great. Okay, pay fines here. Did I hear a cell phone going off during Mr. McAllister's speech?
I did. Yeah, I heard one.
Did somebody back there on the back table cell phone go off? Future, yeah, silence your phones. So we can pay respects to our speaker, but does anybody want to self-fine today for perhaps not having a button
I don't have
or
my pen.
no pen, Karina
Okay.
or Shane?
I'll get the bucket. I'll get the bucket.
You want to pass the bucket? Okay, Carl's got the bucket.
Kraus's next paycheck is just going directly.
Thank you again, Brian, for, I think that total was 310 that you're gonna give us.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I have something after cleaning out a file of a couple companies that I used to own,
This could be
and I
interesting.
came across fine.
There it is.
Oh!
For years.
So you're gonna pay.
Double fine for taking that home.
That's right.
Oh, my $20 money.
I could use that at home for my young, my 13 and my 15-year-old. Yeah. They are fine.
You gotta take it.
Yeah, we need the.
Gotta take the badge back.
So tell us who wears the badge? Like if they get the supreme.
The
fine for
person
day,
who
they have
bids
to-
the most for it.
Okay,
Well, before
Yeah, you
before
should
that
also
is
know.
said, we have to actually do fines, so
gotcha.
that it makes that important.
At the next meeting, you need to auction that off.
Okay, very good. Will do. All right.
I'll pay Bill's.
Bill's bucks. Let me pass around the Memorial David and Jay talking stick. I don't know if it's memorialized.
I was
but-
like,
Yeah, it's
not just yet with us, so.
Talking stick is still with us.
I'll just express my pleasure at being here, which meets the all three.
All right,
Who's there?
and you're looking great, Doug. Tons of energy.
Are you going next?
You talking to me?
Yeah. You didn't eat all your dessert though.
No, I just,
The talking stick is making its way around.
Too much to do.
What say you, Jimmy?
Next time you have to find him for like giving up, because carrying both the stick and the bucket was too much.
We just need to add a little sack to the
Nobody
stick.
else has it.
I'm getting 20 happy bucks. Partially, that's actually a sign I don't have my pin. I haven't been here. Like I've been, my happy part of this is I've been in Texas, my home state, for 3 weeks, having a wonderful time. Dallas for 2 weeks to see family and friends. I haven't been on a plane in 2 years. I'm in mortal fear of flight attendants that they might perceive me as a threat. So I'm really nice to them when I get on. It's like, I am a really good person. I'm gonna sit down, shut up. You won't have any problems with me. And I'm afraid of all the other passengers. They're gonna like reach out and do something. I'm thinking, oh, just make this. I used to be just afraid of crashing. Now I'm afraid. And then I went to Austin and had a great time. Went to the Hill Country, Fredericksburg, which I actually hadn't seen. I've been to Lichtenbach before, but I went to school in Austin. It hadn't really toured Fredericksburg, but then stopped at some of these amazing wineries on the road between Fredericksburg and Austin. I went one particular one that I really liked was called Untamed, and you can look it up because next meeting in December, I will be bringing a bottle from Untamed to Austin. Really, a great bottle. So Texas has great wine. They do happen currently to be using a lot of California grapes. It sort of makes the best of both worlds, but they're on board to get more Texas grapes.
What was the good part about Texas wine? We got the California grapes, but
It's hard, yeah.
we'll look forward to Untamed. Thank you, Judy.
I got $20. I went to Maui last week, celebrate both my parents' birthdays. My mom's birthday is actually today. My dad's a veteran, so it was nice. My boyfriend came on his first family vacation. We all came back alive. It was also my first time without my dog for 6 days. I think I annoyed my family to death by telling them how much I missed her, but she survived. We all survived. So $20. Also finding myself for missing the cleanup, which was amazing, and for missing the 10-later luncheon. I'm going to be in court, but I know you guys will be great. Make sure that you sign up though, because we have more guests signed up than our own members right now. So if you want to see, you got to sign up. So that's my
We
little.
have a limit.
Yeah, we have a limit. Carl.
Well, I'm not finding myself not taking a talking stick, but I did recall that I had kind of an interesting week last week. I had the California Economic Summit for the week, and that was good. That was really great. He talked about kind of what we need to do to be better. It was a really good meeting. First time I've been to a conference since COVID, but I also got to explore the Pacific Biological Laboratory, which was the Ed Ricketts. I don't know if you're Steinbeck. Ed Ricketts was Steinbeck's buddy, and they all hung out at the Pacific Biological Lab, and it's still there. And so we got a private tour of that.
Where's the
So that was pretty cool.
Monterey.
They're at Cannery Row. Yeah,
And Cannery Row, yeah.
very, very cool. I have 20 happy bucks. proud dad. My daughter participated in the American Saddlebred competition in Las Vegas and won 2 out of 3 events, so that made her the national champion in Saddlebred. There you go.
We got one more.
Okay, go for it, Carl.
My daughter passed the bar.
Love this club, love the members, and great stuff. Thank you all. And now, we would like to do a presentation to the Monarch School. Carter, we have a representative from the Monarch School here today. And as Brian indicated, we have a very strong foundation, and Jay indicated, and we were delighted to be able to provide the Monarch School with a $5,000 check as part of our community impact grant giving.
Great.
So, would you like to give us a little piece on the Monarch School?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. And thank you, Jennifer, for support. Really appreciate it. My name is Carter Anderson. I'm the Director of Development here at Monarch School. Monarch School is the only K-12 school that's designed exclusively to provide programs and services to unhoused youth and their families. At Monarch, we empower our students to influence their own growth in the areas of academic success and social emotional learning. We have nearly 300 students that attend Monarch School each day with a growing alumni network of over 90 students. Grant funds last year that you guys really graciously went directly to support our alumni program. So Monarch's alumni support program provides our graduates with support completing college, securing employment, developing skills through workshops and team management. They also provide scholarships to our alumni who are attending post-secondary education or vocational training as well. So we wanted to share a brief update from one of our alumni, Vincent Landry Garcia, is a graduate from Monarch School, and he graduated recently from Arizona State University, and he now is working at Arizona's largest homeless shelter for unhoused families called Umami Day Center. So he sat down with his former coach, Coach Julie at Monarch School, and he kind of talked about and reflected about his time at Monarch School. So I'm going to share that briefly. So right now, yep, thank you. Thank you.
How you doing, Joey?
I'm solid, man. That's so good to see you.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah. Can you share what being homeless meant to you, and what additional challenges did you face?
What it meant to me, it was honestly just this really big mountain. That's the best way to describe it. The first time we lost our Section 8, we landed in a motel. And it was like a Motel 6. And we stayed there for as long as our money could hold us. It was probably like a month in, and then we started living in our car. I can remember not wanting to tell my middle school friends, or like in my high school, because I was embarrassed that I was homeless. And so for the most part, I just kind of didn't really go on social media or didn't post where I was at. It was definitely humbling. It just, people just kind of look at you different, like on the road, or they see you and they kind of turn a blind eye. And that was more difficult. But I think it was cool coming into Monarch, because everyone in that, all the kids in that school, they're going something similar or so I think that was pretty cool. So I didn't have to worry about, being different or being looked at in a different way. But there was one night we just had nowhere to go, and it was probably one of the first nights we actually slept in our car. I was tired and I couldn't sleep till I get, and especially the day, if I'm in a new location, I can't sleep. So be up to 4 or 5 in the morning, and then have to go to school at 7 or 8. And so want to be friendly in this situation, they're understanding,
In this unstable housing situation, you arrive at Monarch. What resources were you able to use? What resources were you necessary?
So for me personally, as a person, my own self, I think being able to do laundry and take a shower every day was a huge help. I remember waking up, take a shower. It was it would be like normal day for me. Wake up, take a shower. If I do laundry in the week for the weekend, so I have clothes. I remember you guys had the Monarch receipt or something. That's where I got all my clothes at. And I was a bigger kid back then, so not all the donation was fitting me, but definitely the staff there, definitely went out of their way to buy me clothes, even if they had to go buy it, they definitely got me clothes. And there was some of the stuff that was really cool, so it was like name brand stuff that too, it was really Nike, so that was really cool, yeah.
You're one of the images of resilience. How can you talk about that? Just what you had to go through with unstable housing, which I go through in your home situation.
I think it's first of all, I touched on saying like working lines, also that's something that Coach Marcy actually told us. Like I remember like the first day of practice, he was just like, I know you guys want these situations and things are tough, but once you step on this court, you step past that line, nothing else matters.
You know, I mentioned just how resilient you were, and I saw that in basketball. When you came out there, getting up and down the court was a little bit of a struggle, and at the end you were playing starter minutes, you were the captain, and it's just that it's a resilience. Can you talk about how with you that resilience came out through sports and your hobbies, your snowboarding, all that stuff you did? But can you talk about just how resilient Monarch students are, and really what does resiliency mean?
In resilience to me, I think so. I even though we're all home, we were homeless and like we were going through a situation. I think that the mindset that I had that really trying to change me and push me forward. I got through basketball. That to stop using it as an excuse. You know, and what I mean by that is just like, you know, I changed I can't do this because I'm homeless. I changed that I have to do this because I'm homeless. You know, I have to get up for school because I'm homeless. I have to take a shower because I'm homeless because you know, I have to do that. You know what I mean? Even though it's a reason for you not to do something, it's not going to change your situation at the end. After graduation, I got a Monarch Legacy Scholarship. The Monarch Legacy Scholarship is given to students who are going to community college or university. Along with that, I got Miss Megan, she's one of my advisors. There's a lot of alumni support after we graduate.
How did Monarch help you, stay that course?
At the beginning of the year, I couldn't afford to go to university anymore. I went back and Miss Megan was there with me. And I remember thinking about that. I remember coming back and saying, I was like, I don't know, I just wait a couple semesters to go back. And she stopped. She was like, no, you have come too far, and you're not going to stop now. And once you stop, it's hard to go back. So we're gonna look at this community college, and we're gonna get it done. She helped me. And they really gave me inspiration, so like I had to go back to square one, and look into like what class match up my degree, what can I use. And so that's what I did at community college. At the same time, I got a job and I worked and I was able to come in and go back in the fall.
Now, you are in your luxury apartment with your own car. What is that like?
Like I went from thinking about, man, I want to meet tonight or a sleep tonight to like, wow, where do I want to get my master's at? Where do I want to live? How do I want to go through this? There are times where like I ponder like, wow, like I really think about how far I've come, and like I think about like I was crazy that like 5 or 6 years ago I was sleeping in a car or I was like not able to like have my own place, but now it's like just like that mountain looks like a hill.
Thank you all for your generous support. Because of you all, alumni like this, that's the opportunity. We're so grateful for your continued partnership and generous support. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Carter. Thank you very much, Carter.
Of course.
Can you talk a little bit about, in addition to the finance person, what the projection is for the residents on where having.
We do, it's actually on one of the slides, if you would pull that back up, I remember them all perfectly, but out of the 93 that graduated, we have some percentages that I should have clicked through, I'm sorry I did it. Here we are. So the 93 that have graduated since 2014 to the larger campus, 45% 25% are enrolled in a 4-year or 2-year college, 8% are enrolled in trade schools, 33% are employed, and about 14% unfortunately lost. But we have about 16 to 20 graduates per year. They graduate and go on to attend community college.
I don't know, and when you were in the old campus, you had a young woman who, I think,
I do not, I'm not familiar with that, but I've heard her story though as well. We have a couple of students right now that are getting their master's. We're very, very excited about that, but I do remember that.
Where's the people again?
We're in Mario Logan, area down there. We have to retreat in the village and we need to go for an expanded.
Yeah, the Rubio's.
No, there was a coffee combo, review,
Yeah.
the whole menu and all the employees.
Yeah.
As a regular review menu. Right next to the campus. So the dance tour of the county building at that time. It was really a good deal. Great job.
Great, really proud of your accomplishments and delighted to support.
Making Judith work over there.
I think we're gonna do some event recaps.
I think Mike, you might be able to press the clicker and it'll go forward. Yeah, try
Let's
pressing it.
try this.
Try it. There you go.
Oh.
Events. Keep going.
Oh.
Keep going, my
Now
friend. Yeah, you got the power. All right. You guys,
Okay,
it's
so-
another great trivia night, and David J was there, and his team was so close to winning. So close to winning. So we need everybody there at the next one, which is the first one.
We had the opportunity to hear from a recent graduate of the Urban Core program. It sounds similar to Monarch School in respect to these are individuals that don't graduate from high school, and the Urban Core gives them a second chance to get their diploma. And that North County campus is really going to serve the needs for the North area there in Escondido. And I think you can see me back in there. And Carl and I were able to attend, and that was a great day, huh, Carl? Yeah, for sure.
Keep going with your clicker, Mike.
I didn't realize it. Wow. I'm self-empowered. Okay. And last Saturday, we had a nice beach cleanup at the La Jolla Shores. Favorite spot for me. I spent many days there as a child, coming from University City. But Gordon was there with his daughter. We had Ryan with his wife. We had David with his entire family, which was great. And a few from Bonita showed up. Among them, their president, Peter Matz, great guy. And then my son, Jackson, tall guy with the flowing red hair, those beautiful locks. So that was a great time. And fortunately, there wasn't a lot of trash to clean up. Very little, because they have crews out there regularly cleaning up. And not so fortunately, they had crews out there specifically to deal with the oil that's been coming down from Long Beach Harbor. Upcoming events. Okay, on the 30th, we have a great community service project we're going to participate in at the Burn Institute. Susan Day, their executive director, is going to have us bundling up packages for youth. So
We need
please,
volunteers.
yeah, please join us for that. That'll be a great time. We might even sneak over to Casa Machada afterwards.
Yeah, it's Ryan's birthday, so
All
we're
right,
gonna
so-
go have some tequila shots.
You want to do a tequila shot with me, Brian? Just one. Maybe I should ask you if I do. And then on the first, as Karina mentioned, we've got the virtual trivia night. We really, is Oakland gonna participate?
Oh, yeah, they do every time.
Okay, so we have to take them down because I think they
They
won it
conquered
like
too,
the last three times
Yeah.
out. Ted Leitner. I would like to, well, Judy's not here. I was gonna allow her to give a little talk about it, but Ted's gonna be here talking about his new book, Uncle Teddy's. And food memory, what is it? Food memory? Fond memories. Okay, maybe it's up. I was like, what? All right, so yeah, Uncle Teddy's gonna be here, and we have about 58 people signed up so far, and we're gonna need more space.
We're
'Cause
gonna be out there.
we'll be outside? Okay, great. So check it out, it's $20. We're gonna have a great lunch, and come join us. And then the Kiwanis Holiday Celebration. We didn't do one last year. We want to do another one this year. We just haven't figured out the location. It'll be an evening time frame, a nice social, good way to celebrate the, upcoming, well, in advance of the new year and the holiday. And the Laurels for Leaders, February 23rd. If, Dan, have you been to our Laurels for Leaders ever?
Long time.
Yeah, so we're still doing Laurels for Leaders. We're in our 65th year.
That's on the 16th, right?
Well, it's on February 23rd, but what's,
No, I'm talking about the holiday.
yes, December 16th, correct.
How about on the Perigo, Star of India Museum?
Not a bad idea.
You might know it goes.
Not a bad idea. I kind of like that idea. We'll investigate that further, Jim. Thank you. So yeah, once again, we celebrate the high school area ASB presidents with the Laurels for Leaders. We are going to be back in San Diego State. Last year was virtual, and we've got a lot of complimentary aspects to the event that you may, be interested in as far as new ways to celebrate. And that, my friends, is the end of our meeting today.
One more thing. One more thing. We would like Sam McAllister to sign this book, and
Yes.
we are giving the last 3 luncheon books that have been signed by our speakers to the Monarch School.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, we have several children's books that each of our speakers signs, and then, in the spirit of literacy, providing some of our member organizations with those books. So with that, I'm going to ring the bell. Thank you all. Great presentation, Dan.